Very warm welcome to everyone. It is 8 p.m. Eastern Time here in Canada, 5:30 a.m. in India. So everybody in India must be like, why do I torture people? But this podcast is about Canada, not about India. So we're doing it on Eastern Time, and I'm glad that I have Josh with me. Josh. For those who don't know, Josh is from the Elevate podcast, and let me lay the background as to why we are having this discussion. So a few days ago, I came across an amazing video that Josh had done on the CSIS report. So for those who don't know, I'm going to put this on the screen. CSIS came up with this report. This is a 2024 report that we're talking about. It is called CSIS Public Report 2024, 40 Years of National Security. And Josh did a wonderful video about certain segments in that video. It was a follow-up, I think, to another video that Josh had done about the G7 summit that had happened in Canada. I really liked that video. So I reached out to Josh and I told him that, listen, come on the podcast. We can talk about the CSIS report because I think it's very important. National security is a very important subject. Uh, I know it's not something that is discussed a lot in Canada for some odd reason, and maybe we can start here, Josh. First of all, thank you for coming on the pod. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. But can you tell me? And this is my feeling, Josh, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But when I come here as someone who is kind of half and half, I don't see the sense of urgency when it comes to national security issues like I do in India. Because I live in both countries, I get that comparison. Or correct me if I'm wrong.
You would not be wrong on that. There's just not a real whole lot of urgency around national security here in this country, mainly because I think we take our security for granted. Canadians have a natural trust in our government institutions. We have a natural trust in who runs things. And naturally, we're just going to be like, it'll all take care of itself until something really bad happens, like, i.e., I don't know, a mass casualty event that happens in Nova Scotia here, where a man went house to house to house killing people with illegal American guns. All of a sudden, national security became an issue after that. And then all of a sudden it went quiet again. And all of a sudden it became the continued conversation was about legal gun owners rather than taking care of the illegal guns that were on the streets that led to this mass casualty event that happened here out in the East Coast. So naturally, that's kind of what happens. It's human behavior, human condition of we are going to close the barn after the horses leave or flee. And even then, when that happens, people then get amnesia and they do it all over again. And national security has never really been something that's really been fought for here. Unless his name is Donald Trump. And all of a sudden, we get all we believe in nationalism and believe in taking care of business and standing up to the old bully. But anybody else who could literally be killing people on our soil, we'll get over it.
So I'll tell you why I found this so confusing, especially in the run-up to the elections we just had, the federal elections, for those who don't understand. Justin Trudeau in 2017 has made that famous statement that Canada is a post-national state. By post-national state, you literally mean there is nothing national, a national identity in Canada. When you don't have a national identity, you literally don't have the concept of sovereignty. When you don't have the concept of sovereignty, you don't have concept of national security. These are second order, third order effects psychologically, philosophically of something like this. Coupled with that, when it's like if somebody like Donald Trump would say the things he was saying, the reaction was very peculiar. I was like, elbows up is fine. Okay, whatever. All right. Like, okay, got it. Elbows up. We're all elbows up. And I have to share this is because this is not the first time I've asked you this question. Whenever we have spoken offline, and you can vouch for it, I would always, my first question to you, why does nobody care about these things in this country? Why am I the new immigrant shouting all the time? And you would always smile like you are, because you'll be like, I don't know. It's like, how can, like, a country should care, right? So let's take this recent example of this student who had come from Pakistan, right? I forgot his name. He sat in Canada on a student visa. The reports have clearly stated he was going on darknet chats. He was getting recruited by ISIS allegedly, and then he planned to cross the border, go to America, and attack Jewish communities in New York. He gets caught by the FBI, not by the Canadian counterparts. And the FBI goes, "Oh, you have a kooky person here." Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the funniest bit was, like, people will be like, how can you laugh? It is something that you have to laugh about. He was applying for refugee status in Canada as a homosexual.
Yep.
Like, how can this happen?
When you put ideology over reality, is that how that happens? I found it really interesting when I was even talking about the Niger situation that happened out in BC, and the idea that he was allegedly the leader of a terrorist organization, that the media will constantly fight you over it here in this country, saying, "Well, we don't know that. We don't know that." And it's like, well, how do you know he wasn't a leader of a terrorist organization? Can you combat that? And they can't. And you just got to go back to the history of what the people around him have talked about, what his group has talked about, and what the group at large has talked about. And it's like, it's kind of a terrorist organization. And it was really interesting. I even had a member of the media actually come at me on X over this, saying, espousing the exact same things I've said to you. And it's like, well, hold up here. Interpol put out red notices for him. Do they just do that for fun? No, you have to have evidence and make sure, and they make sure that it's not politically motivated. And they had those red notices out forever, and they never took them down. Why? Why did Canada put Niger on a no-fly list? Did they just do it for fun? Why? Is he a dangerous national security threat? That is the question a lot of people are having. Yet the media will continue to defend the government narrative that a Canadian citizen was killed on Canadian soil by India. And it is mind-boggling. Anyone who tries to fight against it, well, then you're an Indian asset, which is the new substitute for Russian asset. And this is how they do. This is what they do to shut you down, to make sure you don't impinge or impose on the overall communique or the talking points of the government here in Canada.
Okay. Follow up to this, and I'm going to put up the report, a bit from the report, which you have also shared. Now, there are two things in the report that I want to talk about particularly, because these are the focus of your video that you've talked about. Now, obviously, you're talking about Niger, and by the way, all these things are public knowledge. These have been shared umpteen times on various platforms. Even people who are supporters of Niger would talk about how he was on a low-fly list, how there were two red corner notices. Forget that. How his photo is put in Gurdwaras along with the Khalistan Tiger Force, KTF. There are photos of these things. KTF photos of Niger are there, but apparently he's just a plumber. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yes, allegedly he's just a plumber. So that was the thing. But the bit we are talking about is the Indian bit where they talk about the Hardeep Singh Nijjar thing. That is one. But what I find very interesting is this whole thing that Canada nowadays seems to have this, like, the report. 2018 was the first time where Khalistan was even mentioned. All right.
Yep.
Khalistan was never mentioned in any report before 2018. At that time, and people can check this, there were media reports. They always say the Sikh community objected.
Yeah.
But it was not the Sikh community, it was the Khalistanis who objected, and Justin Trudeau just vetoed it, and he said, no, you guys are not putting this, and it was removed. Now I want to focus this bit. All right, this is the reports bit that you had also spoken about. They say this is the India section. So Canada-based proxy agents engaged in range of activities that seek to influence Canadian communities and politicians. That is the allegation on the Indian government. When these activities are deceptive, clandestine, or threatening, they are deemed to be foreign interference. Okay. These activities attempt to steer Canada's positions into alignment with India's interests on key issues, particularly with respect to how Indian government perceives Canada-based supporters of Khalistan. All right. Now, Khalistan is obviously what they called the struggle for the independent Sikh homeland. Now, what I find very interesting is the word Khalistan was there in 2018, removed in 2018 itself. And now, what is your first reaction when you find out that it never came in any subsequent record from 2018 to 2024? That's my first question to you.
My first reaction is not surprising, because it's when you have institutions that are run by humans, you're going to have a natural human reaction. And the natural Canadian human reaction is, Kalistan, what even is that? No one really cares. I remember you mentioned this way back like last year when you came on my show. And it's like, Canadians don't care about it until it impacts them. Until then, it's just brown people beating on brown people. And I remember that really stuck with me when you said that, because it's so very true. The minute that Kalistan started kind of breaching into other spaces in Canadian culture is when they started getting the attention of people like myself. They started getting the attention of those CSIS officials. Started getting the attention of others who started getting very loud on the Khalistani issue. And that's really what it takes. And I said at the end of my video, I said, you should have left me alone. You really should have left me and my co-host alone. I would have been, a very small podcast. No one really would have known about me. I wouldn't have had to take this as seriously as I did. And now now I have a bigger platform talking about you specifically. And now you're on a CSIS list. So let's, you really should have watched. You should have kept your mouth shut, and you could have kept doing what you were doing. But they instead tried to increase their footprint, tried to intimidate more people. And now here we are. Now the government is acknowledging that they're an actual national security threat.
No, but it clearly has happened because the prime minister has changed. It's very obvious that Carney is not playing footsie with them, right?
You think it's a Carney thing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, listen. Gurpatwant Singh Pannu comes on CBC and says, I work with the Prime Minister of Canada's office.
Mm-hmm.
He's on record stating, I work with the Prime Minister of Canada's office. That office was Justin Trudeau.
Yep.
Justin Trudeau goes, listen, I have never hidden I lean on one particular side politically. I've never hidden that, right? I'm a very transparent person. I'm not a liberal. I actually lean conservative.
Yep.
But these are the facts that I can guarantee and assure you, because see, I am a person who has been doing political commentary for more than 15 years, and I have my sources in the Indian government. I know. So I can tell you what the Indian government told me. The day Carney becomes the prime minister, the day Carney becomes the prime minister, I'm talking about when he took over from Trudeau, not this term.
Yep.
The next day, the Canadian High Commission in Delhi, whatever was left of it, because, a lot of staff, both the sides sent a lot of staff back.
Yep.
The Canadian side reaches out to the Indian side. This guy wants to fix things. I'm dead serious. Everything I'm saying is real.
Yep.
And the Indians don't take it seriously, because the Indians have trust deficit issues, with Canada.
Yeah.
Then CSIS starts sharing intelligence with their Indian counterparts, which is RNAW, which was normally happening, but for 2 years, Justin Trudeau stopped it. CSIS had stopped sharing intelligence with RNAW. Suddenly, they're like, no, another gesture from our side. Here, we are sharing intelligence again. Okay. This is then. Then look at Carney's entire campaign. Listen, I don't like to say this, but every politician who was a centrifugal figure in this entire election federally had a Khalistan flag in the background other than Carney. You cannot find one photo of Carney in his entire campaign before or till now with Khalistan. He might have Hamas in the background. That I cannot guarantee. He might have Hamas in the background. but not Khalistan. Carney doesn't have. Pierre was clearly seen in rallies where Khalistani posters were there. You remember how many times when I was in India, I used to call you and I used to tell you, look, bro, this happened here, this happened here. You remember, right? I used to call you and tell you. And all of these things are real. But Carney stayed away from. I am not saying that Carney is perfect. I'm saying on this subject, he's been consistent. He's been very consistent on this. And this change is only because the Prime Minister has changed, in my view. Now you tell me, do you find this view plausible or you think it's some other thing?
I think we are seeing the same results. I think we have different ideas of why it's happening. I'm seeing Mark Carney look at from the Canadian perspective. Mark Carney's, likes to at least play the idea that America and Canada are fighting, and so him and Trump are. Whether they are or not, it's a whole other issue. But that's what they like to, put out there. So Carney made that huge announcement. Well, we're making a deal with the EU because Canada's the most European of the non-European countries. All that BS happened. What I see with Mark Carney is he needed to start establishing better trade partners. And India being, correct me if I'm wrong, the number 5 economy in the world, you're going to want to, number four in the world, you're going to want to be able to do a deal with them. So what's it going to take to have more open trade with them? Then you start hearing Modi out. And Modi makes very clear what his perspective is. And Carney's in this perspective as, I don't think Carney really even knows much about Kalistan, if I'm being honest. I don't think he even cares. I think he just wants to get a deal done. And Modi said one thing. He's like, okay, well, if that's what it takes, then I'll do that. That's kind of what I see. Is like, I don't think Carney really knows much about it. However, he's going to do whatever it takes to get a deal done with India.
So you're 100% right. And now I'll give the other side.
Okay.
So Carney comes from Brookfield, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Brookfield was a company originally in Toronto.
Yep.
Moved to New York, right? They shifted their office because obviously Canadian tax laws suck.
Yeah.
Before somebody, I mean, I'm sorry. If I was Brookfield, even I would move. Just laying it out there. I'm sorry. I don't like paying more taxes, ladies and gentlemen. I don't like it.
Surprise.
Even I would have moved. So Brookfield has almost $30 billion invested in India. Just putting it out there.
Okay.
And don't trust me, just Google search it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lot of those investment are in the renewable sector. I think around 11 to 14 billion are in the renewable sector. So I'm just giving you the full gamut. There's a lot of money invested. Second, Carney is also a finance guy. So Carney knew a giant chunk of Canadian pension funds are invested in Indian markets. Why? Because Indian markets are giving very good returns. Ask me. I make money there. So
fair enough.
I think he's a finance guy, and you are 100% right. He doesn't understand Khalistan. He just doesn't like the noise around it, and he wants to deal. I think the reason for the pivot also is because Trump put Canada in such a pickle.
Yeah.
That Canada could not do it with China because they knew China is hegemonic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Canada was just diversifying, and they went to India, and India said, we're not touching you if you work with these loon bags.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And it's not like these loon bags want to harm Indians, right? And India. Not only do they want to harm Indians in India. My problem now my next question to you is, how can the average Canadian not know? Like, there was a recent poll that only 17% Canadians know about the Air India bombing. Yeah. Literally the largest terrorist attack in Canadian history. Like, explain this to me. 2-3 bits. Never spoken in school. Never spoken about it if you go to university or college. No, like mainstream coverage. Why, man? I mean, aren't Canadian lives important?
What a way to put that. It's admittedly, I remember we had this conversation the first time we ever talked, and I remember you sharing about the Air India bombing, and I never learned about it in my education system. I never learned about it at any point in my education journey. It was my first time ever hearing about it was from an Indian guy. and admittedly, I was, it made me start looking into it more and what happened around it, what happened to the investigation, where did it go, this, that, the other. And then I was just like asking the same question as you're posing here. Is like, why we never talk about this? This is a very serious issue. And I'm curious at the perspective of, I'm curious if the Canadian culture just never took India seriously in general. Like I wonder if that's a thing. Where if it was a European country, if it was America, if it was China, all of a sudden we'd be talking very serious about it. But India just kind of never been taken seriously. And I personally, even when it comes to national policy or foreign policy, I've never seen Canada take India all that seriously. I mean, Trudeau and his whole like gamut when he first became prime minister, he went down to India and started doing dress up with everybody. It was just like, oh, what are you doing here? I feel like that's just been the mentality. So it's like, oh, this thing happened. It was one thing that happened, whatever, we move on. I really feel like if it was going from between two different countries, I feel like it would have been a lot more focus would have been brought to it. But I really do feel like there's something weird happening between.
So Terry Milevsky not only agrees with you, he adds one more element to it. Terry Milevsky, for those who don't know, is a veteran Canadian journalist, someone I deeply respect, someone who has taught me a lot in life. Terry Milevsky, someone who I consider a dear friend, deep respect for Terry. One of the nicest people you'll meet in your life is Terry Milevsky. Terry told me it was exactly what you said. Plus, I think if white people would have died, it would have been a very different story. I'm just saying it straight up. This is Terry, and Terry has written about this in his book, Blood for Blood, the most formative book on the Air India bombing and how the investigation was botched up, is actually written by a Canadian. And you know what the tragedy is? Terry did not find a publisher in Canada. No Canadian publisher touched a book about the worst tragedy in Canadian history.
Interesting.
Terry got a publisher in India.
Wow.
258 Canadians die. All right. There were more than 300 who have passed away. But majority were Canadians who hold a Canadian passport. No Canadian publisher felt that it is worth covering this news.
There you go.
Like today for me, I get, like I've said it literally on your podcast, that probably I get along with a person like you more than many people in my own community. And, you've always laughed about it, but like I'm a straight shooter. I say it as I see it. Like I get along much more ideologically with you than many people, of my own community over here. But the thing is that my brain doesn't look at skin color. Like I just don't. That's not how I'm trying. Like my wiring is not like that. And I know most Canadians are not. But when the Air India bombing happens, the Prime Minister of Canada calls the Indian Prime Minister and says, "We're very sorry about your tragedy."
Yeah.
It's your tragedy.
Yeah.
It should be the Indian Prime Minister calling the Canadian counterpart saying, "We're very sorry about your tragedy."
Mm-hmm.
I've never understood this. And maybe that is, I don't know. You may disagree with me, but I'm just sharing what Terry thought.
I could see that. I could see it would make sense. That would make sense to me. It's tough because like it's also hard to like work and talk in this context, because in 2025 the view of Indians in Canada is growing very, very, it's growing to be a big issue. And so it would be, well, we saw another plane accident took place. I think it was in India, correct? Multiple people died. People in Canada were cheering it. Like that's kind of the level we've gotten to when it comes to Canadians' view of Indians at this point. And so I'd be curious in how that would change, if it would change, if that were to happen today. So I think that's also where I'm just having a hard time with the context, because I wasn't living in the 80s. I don't know what it was like. So I don't really understand or couldn't really speak to the culture of the time. However, I could see where Terry's going with that, and I could buy it.
Yeah, Terry's old, man. I'm just kidding. Terry's a good friend. I joke with him. He's like, I was like, "Terry, you're growing old." He's like, "Yeah, no wonder." All right, let's go to the next bit of the report. Now, this is Canadians and acronyms, man. Oh my God. So politically motivated violent extremism, right? They call it PMVE actors engage in the planning, financing, and facilitating of attacks globally in order to establish new political systems or entities. Since the mid-1980s, the PMVE threat in Canada has manifested primarily through Canada-based Khalistani extremists, CBKs, another acronym, seeking to use and support violent means to create an independent nation state called Khalistan, largely within Punjab, India. Some Canadians participate in legitimate and peaceful campaigning to support the Khalistan movement. Non-violent advocacy for an independent state of Khalistan is not considered extremism. Rightly so, it should not be. Only a small group of individuals are considered extremists because they continue to use Canada as a base for the promotion, fundraising, and planning of violence primarily in India. Now, Canada loves to talk about foreign interference.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
foreign interference is the buzzword in Canadian mainstream media.
Totally.
A CSIS report says that we have Canadians who are planning violent revolutions in India. With what face does Canada tell other countries about foreign interference when they themselves do it and they don't do anything to fix it?
What face do they have?
Yeah, like what is their standing? Like if I am going, it's like America goes around and preaches freedom and democracy to the world. You know what America is doing. It's basically they have the biggest gun and the largest amount of cash on the table, and they just go around telling everyone, you listen, I strong, I rich. That's what America does.
Yeah. That's so true. Yeah, it is really funny. Kind of hearing Canada talk about foreign interference, considering how much we just allow it to happen. We even have full on commissions over it. We have investigations, and nothing ever gets done about it. And it is funny when they kind of start calling it out that way. The one thing I really did find funny in that report was the fact they had to distinguish the good Khalistanis versus the bad Khalistanis. And I'm like, it's a whole ideology that is bad. I don't think there's a good ones and bad. Like the example I made in my video was how like they are, from my perspective, they are 1-to-1 the Ku Klux Klan, 100%. They have very, very similar extremist ideologies in terms of, their race and their beliefs, this, that, the other. So you're going to tell me that there was good KKK members and bad KKK? Like, is that how we're going about? Like, that's the reasoning. That's the exact same reasoning we're making here, and it looks absolutely foolish.
Yeah, you remind me of a former prime minister of Pakistan once, Imran Khan. He said there is good Taliban, there is bad Taliban. So literally, you have a legitimate point, which is why I loved your video and I wanted you to come over and talk about this, is because this is exactly what the CSIS report is doing.
Yeah.
They are normalizing hatred. So what CSIS is saying is, if you don't plan to kill someone or you actually don't blow planes up, you're allowed to go around saying 800,000 Canadian Indian origin people go back to India.
Right.
You're just normalizing that. Before people say this is fake, all these things happen. This year, there were videos all over the internet about this being said. I have shared a clip where Khalistanis are saying specifically, Canadian Hindus go back to India. People who like Modi go back to India. The counter to this is, my wife is a Canadian who lives with me in India half of the year, and some Indian comes up to my wife and tells her, oh, you are a carny Canadian, go back to Canada. It's exactly right. How would my wife feel?
Yeah.
My wife has every right to live in India. She's married me. She's living in India. She's not an Indian citizen. She's a Canadian citizen. And India doesn't allow dual citizenship.
Yeah.
So, she files her paperwork and she lives in India with me. But, how would she feel if somebody says that? This is exactly how people feel, right? Okay, I might like some politician in India. That's my personal choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing about this foreign interference bit is, right, it is like Schrodinger's cat. It is and it is not. Where it is, it's never talked about. Where it is not, it is always talked about.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. So there was this article, I forgot the paper. I think the journalist was Mr. Stuart Bell. A very interesting article where they say this guy, oh my God, he's the member of the Overseas Friends of BJP. The Overseas Friends of BJP is an Indian political outfit from where Prime Minister Modi comes from. Okay. The Overseas Friends of BJP, is like the overseas Republicans, the overseas Democrats. It's like a club, like old uncles and aunties go there, they party. They just need an excuse.
Right.
So this guy is a Canadian, okay? He just happens to be a member of the Overseas Friends of BJP. Their only thing is, if some Indian politician comes to Canada ever, they get to meet them, take a photo and a selfie and say, look, I met someone from India. That's about it. That's their only work. He says, this person donated to a conservative party leader. That is foreign interference.
Mm-hmm.
I can show you chapters of Republicans overseas in Canada, overseas Democrats in Canada, proudly talking about how they are Trump supporters, or they are Bernie supporters, or they are AOC supporters, Canadians and Americans both. Why is that not foreign interference? But this, like, I have never understood this subject. That nobody wants to explain this to me.
I would even take it even further. When you had politicians in the House of Commons here in Canada getting upset that members of the Conservative Party met with one of the German politicians because she was apparently so far right, which I was still, the evidence of her being far right are yet to be found. They lost their minds over that. However, it's been okay for the Liberal Party of Canada to bring over Hillary Clinton to their events. It's been okay for the NDP to bring over Bernie Sanders to their events. No peep. But as soon as the Conservatives bring somebody who's conservative leaning to one of their events, all of a sudden it is a threat to our national security, threat to democracy, threat, shut the heck up. That is just the reality. And that's how the game is played. And that's why a lot of conservatives here in Canada were so frustrated by the election, because it was so clear that the media was covering really one side to all of this to really paint a specific narrative. And now here we are. And now we have Mark Carney trying to equate Canada with the EU. And I genuinely asked the question on my show last night, and I'll ask it again here. I'm curious how the perception of Canadians would be towards the EU if the media here had the same hate campaign that they had for Trump in the US during the election. Would that change their minds at all on how they feel about the EU?
So that's a brilliant question. Brilliant question.
Thanks. And that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of this. Is it's whoever's in control of the media. It's who's ever in control of politics here in this country get to dictate how things operate. My party can do whatever they want, but if your party does something, we're going to raise a fuss about it, and everyone's going to hate you. And so that's kind of what I see as well when you kind of bring up the, it's okay for America or Democrats or Republican Americans to speak about, Canadian politics or whatever, because that is foreign interference. However, it's only foreign interference if Donald Trump speaks into it. It's only foreign interference if JD Vance is friends with
Jamil Javani.
Like that's foreign interference. However, when Bernie Sanders pipes in or AOC pipes in Canadian politics, it's okay. So yeah, that's how the game's played.
Forget that bit. The funniest bit that I've heard is that if foreign interference is people, giving any sort of commentary on politics anywhere in the world, right? Yeah. That's pretty much the standard of foreign interference here. Yeah. Like, so it's a pretty stupid standard. If you ask me, like, I've seen many stupid things in my life, but like, this really takes the cake. If this is the standard, Canadian politicians actively engage in foreign interference in India. And let me show you examples of that. I don't like doing that, but and cutting across party lines, right? It's not like it's one party or the other. All right. So let's look at foreign interference of Canada. So why are Canadian politicians so concerned about what happens in India? So this is Randeep Sarai, a liberal, right? He's still a minister, by the way, a low-ranked minister, but he's a minister in the current government. Deeply concerned about news reports coming out of Punjab, India, the suspension of internet services and restricted gatherings. This is not foreign interference as per the Canadian standard, right? This is not foreign interference. Right. Arpan Khanna, the current national outreach chair of the Conservative Party, he's also, everybody was sent the same tweet by the same handler, by the way.
Yeah.
The Liberals and the Conservatives. You look at the irony, everybody's saying the same shit. Everybody's saying the same shit about, and look at the dates, 18th March, 19th March. Tim Uppal, 18th March. Very concerned about the reports out of Punjab, India. Jasraj Halan, 19th March. Very concerned about the reports coming out of Punjab, India.
Right.
It's so obvious, man. It's so obvious, so pathetic. It is so pathetic. And these people talk about foreign interference to me or to anyone with a straight face. This is so funny when I look at this. Forget that when these farm laws were kind of gotten up in India, the Brampton Municipal Corporation, Brampton, passed a motion condemning the farm laws in India. That, sir, is not foreign interference.
That's crazy.
But a country like India that actually has a national security threat from a country like Canada, which itself in its report admits that, yes, we have some kooks here who want to do things to you, is foreign interference. Now, it doesn't mean India should be allowed to do anything. I'll be the first person to criticize that too. Throw every single person and catch every single person who indulges in illegal activity. If anybody would check my work, they would be the first person to like, I'm an immigration hawk. Like I say, send all of them back who are doing bad things. I don't care where they come from.
Right.
But here's the irony. India wants them back in India. Canada doesn't send them back.
Is this they want them back to have them stand trial? Is that the thought?
Yes. India has sent. So look at the irony. Just in the last 10-15 days, in the run-up, it happens every year. It breaks my heart as a human being. Forget as a Canadian or an Indian. Breaks my heart as a human being. Every time the Air India bombing memorial service is around the corner, which is the 23rd, every year, right? 22nd, 23rd, we have the Air India events on different locations in Canada. The Khalistanis will engage some issue to divert. This year it was Lawrence Bishnoi gang has to be declared a terrorist outfit. Okay, please do it. Now here's the bit they don't want to talk about. India has an outstanding extradition request of 26 gangsters that India has identified that are from the Lawrence Bishnoi gang that are in Canada, and they're begging Canada, please send them back.
Yep.
Nobody wants to talk about that. But David E.B., the Premier of British Columbia, wants to wax eloquent. Patrick Brown, the Mayor of Brampton, wants to wax eloquent. Members from the NDP want to wax eloquent. John Rustad from the British Columbia province, from the Conservative Party, wants to wax eloquent. Oh, Lawrence Bishnoi. Do you think Canadian politicians think we are stupid?
No, I mean, I legitimately think that they just don't know. Like that's just the reality I come to. I just don't think they actually know what's going on. As you said, like they just see it as an Indian issue that's not to be taken seriously. I genuinely think that's how they view it, because that is the common denominator across all those people. Like they legitimately don't care. They just want to do with the thing that is, I mean, I don't really see much of a threat there, so I'll just do the convenient thing and say, oh, yeah, that's, they should stay. Like that's the perspective.
But how does it help Canada then? Like, let's say I am someone who lives here and I care for this country. And anybody who watches my work will know I genuinely care for this country. And like, I don't hide. I have dual loyalties. I have no problem in saying that. Nobody can, like, I accept my dual loyalty. So what are you going to accuse me of something that I myself accept? Yes, I love two countries. It's allowed. It's allowed. Like, I love Canada and India, but and I genuinely want the relations to improve. You know why? Because our trade right now is cumulatively from what India buys from Canada and vice versa is at 10 billion. I want that to be 50 billion. That's my dream. If you ask me, 50 billion trade between India and Canada, hundreds of thousands of jobs in both countries.
Yeah.
Both countries. That's my dream. But the people who are in between this dream are these morons. Now, another criticism, and this is my criticism of the report, and I'm just sharing it with you.
Yep.
I think the Pakistan section was very peculiar. And this is where I'm deeply disappointed with CSIS.
Oh, yeah. This was interesting.
They talk about this entire section, which starts here and it ends somewhere over here. And what deeply disappoints me is that, like, the Khalistanis, when they go on their marches, they literally have a Pakistani flag with them.
Yep.
CSIS doesn't even like refer to it. They talk about it in a very vague manner, but why not mention it? And by the way, a Canadian journalist, all right, Samir Kaushal, he is about to give he has just interviewed an ex Khalistani who allegedly has claimed, I'm going to share that video right here because it's just come across to me. Samir is the Canadian journalist, by the way. People who think I'm talking about an Indian, this is a Canadian journalist, and this is a Khalistani. I think this is Jaspal Atwal, if I'm not mistaken. But Samir says an ex-Khalistani allegedly claims that there are many Pakistani intelligence agents working covertly in Canada. This is a Canadian journalist, Samir Kaushal, talking to an ex-Khalistani. If I understand, this is Jaspal Atwal. Let me confirm. I think he's speaking with Jaspal Atwal. This guy is the guy who I think attacked. This is Jaspal Atwal. This guy had attacked Ujjal Dosanjh. By the way, this was the guy who ended up with Trudeau. You remember the whole kerfuffle in India when Trudeau had gone last time?
Yep.
This was the guy who went with Trudeau.
Oh, was it?
And he was waltzing around with Trudeau, Jaspal Atwal.
Comical.
This news was broken by Terry and Tariq Fatah, the late Tariq Fatah, a Canadian legend who has fought against Islamism in Canada. I miss him daily. He was one heck of a guy. I remember when Charlie Hebdo had happened, and we had the Jesus Charlie t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
He literally wore a Jesus Charlie t-shirt and went to a mosque in Canada to pray. That's Tariq Fatah. That guy had balls of steel. He just wore a t-shirt and he went to a mosque. And he's like, I'm going to pray here. What are you going to do?
Oh, man.
This is Canada.
This is Canada.
So now tell me, in this situation, why do you think these kind of gaffes are made? Like, you in your video literally showed Pakistani flags and Khalistani flags together. If a YouTuber like you with one-person resources can do this, I'm sure CSIS has a much larger budget, right?
Yeah, well, CSIS definitely has a large budget. However, right now, CSIS, this isn't their agenda. Their agenda isn't actual true national security concerns. Their agenda is quashing dissent, like people like me. They're more interested in people who are Canadian. They're more interested in people who have been living here, who are voicing their displeasure about the current government. Those are the ones they're currently going after. People who are kind of getting in the streets and causing chaos. Actually, we won't say it out loud, but we'll talk. But we won't say too much about it. But we know it's happening. Where it's like, no, actually, we're allowing a lot of extremist groups to kind of do whatever they want because we kind of want the havoc to be here. There's a lot of political reasonings for the havoc to be here. And we have politicians who will say, oh, we don't want to see hatred on our soil, but we'll continue to allow it to happen. We won't actually put a serious foot down on it because it's politically convenient. That's why you're not going to see much about this. That's why CSIS probably has it on their books that this is a thing, but it's not, has no political will right now here in this country. It's all about people who are critical of Mark Carney, critical of the Liberal Party, critical of what laws they're trying to put in and then people who are critical of the immigration situation, people who are critical of the refugee situation, people who are critical of the temporary foreign workers, people who are critical of these things. Those are the ones they're going after. So that's this is not exactly in the pipeline of the current government.
So now, when you don't take these things seriously, right? Mm-hmm. The problem becomes serious is anti-Semitism is one of the things that has been on a serious rise in Canada. Hate against the South Asian community in general, the Indian community, is rising in Canada.
Yeah.
Listen, you're not going to come up with a system where one fine day you just send everybody back. It doesn't work like that.
No.
The funny thing is when people tell me to go back to Canada, I'm like, I anyway live there half of the year. Like, what are you sending me?
Right.
Like, so okay. So I always tell them, I was like, okay, I'll go back, come back, and then go back again for you, just to
Just kidding.
make you happy, if that is a kind of a thing. Maybe in the last segment, you and I can spend some time, as you and I as individuals. You have a platform, I have a platform, and we have a listener base now. Whatever. Uh, I mean, we're not Joe Rogan, but we have a listener base. People do tune in for our content. Where do you think we can raise this in a responsible manner? Because my biggest thing is that I hate sweeping generalizations.
Mhm.
For example, if somebody makes a racist comment at me and I superimpose that understanding on everyone else in Canada, is something that I will never do, because I have always said this publicly and privately. It's not like my version changes publicly and privately. These are some of the nicest people I've met in my life. The nicest, like very kind people. There are jackasses in every part of the world. I don't want people to judge Canada. When I am in India, I'm a spokesperson for Canada. I'm not shitting on Canada. Like, I try to do my best job to stand up for Canada. How do we try to make this change, and how do we try to create a level of awareness?
We have to be effective in speaking in the nuance, which is really hard to do in a polarized society that everything has to be black and white. Right now, what I've seen a lot of people from Canada who are just kind of run of the mill people, who are like, they just view Indians as the problem. My video the other day, I really kind of made a very distinct effort to distinguish how Khalistanis will try to conflate Sikhism with Khalistan, that they're one and the same thing. They're not. And I think that even that explanation, as I went into some further nuance and trying to break down the issue, I was nervous even in my comment section. I was like, oh boy, this is going to be an interesting one. Let's see what happens. Almost every comment I came across was, wow, thanks for putting a voice to something I was thinking but didn't totally get. And you're right. These are the people causing troubles. And it's cool to see Hindu Canadians. It's cool to see Canadians who just want to integrate and be left alone. Those are the people we want here. Like, I saw a lot of those comments in my comment section, and I was very encouraged by that. That there are people who legitimately just want to see the bad get out of here, and they want to embrace the good. And that's for pretty much almost every run-of-the-mill Canadian. That's all they want. They just want to embrace the good and leave out the bad. The problem that happens is you have the CBCs of the world, the CTVs of the world, who keep running these stories of people of South Asian descent who are gaming the system, who are trying to take advantage of the refugee system, trying to take advantage of our immigration system. And then this hatred continues to build up towards people in the South Asian community. That's just kind of how this goes. But if you can kind of break that apart, and that's the thing frustrates me too, is then the CBC will step back. It's like, look at the racism rising in Canada. It's like, what stories are you running all the stinking time? That's how people are viewing, especially when you're immigrating. A high percentage of your immigration is coming from one place of the world. First off, we're immigrating way too many people in the first place. We're already mad about that. And then we keep taking people from the same country and almost the same region of that country, and you keep bringing them in huge loads. Well, then you get people who are frustrated, who are going to point the finger at that group of people. And so that is the problem, is the Canadian media will then point the finger at people becoming racist versus pointing the finger at the government, who's bringing in all these people that we cannot house. We can't provide healthcare for. We can't provide meaningful solutions for. And they're also now competing for scarce resources already. And that's where the frustration comes. So that's what I'm saying for people like myself and yourself, especially for me, is calling out the weak immigration, calling out the weak borders. At the same time, speaking in the nuance of the people that are coming here causing a ruckus and what their actual beliefs are, and really making that a lot louder than what the mainstream media is making loud.
Fair enough. So, like, okay, someone has asked, is there any scope of reviving Canada? That's a Canadian.
I hate that question just because I have to answer it. Honestly, I don't know if there is. I don't know what it is. Because right now you have Pierre Poilievre, who's speaking very heavy on the immigration side of things. But even he's talking about, well, people who are overstaying their visas are the ones that really got to go. The problem is the Liberals are putting in such a huge effort into just making everyone legitimate citizens. So that when the time comes, say another government does take over, you can't just go around and say, we're going to deport all these Canadian citizens, no longer however long they've had their citizenship for. Like, they literally can't do that. So how do you revive the Canadian culture after that? How do you revive what's happened after that? We have about 2.5 million people that have come in over the past 3-4 years into this country, and people who have overstayed visas. But those people who are overstaying visas are going to receive Canadian citizenship from this Liberal government. That's going to happen. So that's where my answer to that question is well, Pierre Poilievre has his answer to it. However, that's not really going to solve much of anything, because those people are going to become legitimate Canadian citizens by this Liberal government. So if you ever try to reverse that, now you look like a fascist. Now you look like that crazy right wing. Now you look like people who are not tolerant of people who look differently than them. That's kind of where that goes. And I don't know if there is any coming back from it, unfortunately.
No, but how can you let 1 million in when your housing capacity is 250,000?
It's a good question. Ask all the people who pitching tents in the streets of Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, Halifax. That's how that happens.
That's so stupid. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's a supply and demand issue.
You're not wrong. Like, that's the thing. It is a supply and demand issue. The problem is we have ideologues running our politics in this country. They do not care what makes sense. They only care about what their sensibilities tell them. And their sensibilities tell them we need to bring in all the people because we need to make ourselves feel better that we're helping so many people. We're helping nobody. And we're not solving anything. But they think they are. And, we'll go down that path too, where this is, from my perspective, if you look at the stats, you look at how things are going, even the dumbest person in the world would know that this was a bad idea. So then I go to the other side of this, is this, from my perspective, is being done on purpose to essentially create a specific, a permanent lower class that will have to work for lower dollars to then make the corporations like the Brookfields of the world rich. You bring in as many immigrants as refugees as you possibly can to drive down costs, to drive down wages, and then people have to then work and work for pennies on the dollar, and big companies get rich. That's how this goes. That's where this is going.
For me, the line on immigration is very clear. Whether it's immigration into Canada, whether it's immigration into India, immigration is a privilege. It is not a right. So all these Muppets who are standing outside protesting, I spent $50,000 to come here. Listen, you knew you were coming in a fraudulent scheme. Most of you did. No, sorry. Go back. Secondly, the United Kingdom has done this. People who come from India cannot come in the oppressed category. Listen, India is a democracy. Nobody's getting oppressed there. I live there 6 months of the year. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. You're gaming the system. You cannot be allowed. No refugee status. Nothing is allowed. You want to come to Canada, go through the normal route.
Right.
If you have the skills that Canada needs, then you're welcome. Otherwise, go back. It applies to me too. It applies to me. The irony is I could have been a Canadian way before. I never was. I still am not. I've been married to a Canadian for 18 freaking years. I still did not take a Canadian passport. I just didn't. And the weird thing is I'm a high net worth individual. These other people are not.
Right.
Yeah. I actually end up in 6 months, I end up spending more than probably a lot of these people would spend in the whole year. But that's not the question over here. The question is you have to come the right way. You cannot live in a democracy like India. Yes, it is flawed. I'm not saying it's perfect. You just have to watch my podcast. I criticize it a lot. But the point is, you don't get a refugee status for freaking hell. These people are fooling people over here. And that's why, and the funny part is the ones who are raising the voice the most against it is also people like us, brown people. They're like, listen, fraud here, please don't do it. And,
Right.
you know, like everybody, one day they're fighting for, you know, the Palestinian state. The other day they are fighting for Khalistan. The next day they are fighting for some other revolutionary cause. No, it is just an immigration mafia. These are all. And then a tiny percentage amongst that are the real terrorists who know, oh, these Canadians have this system. Let us game this.
Yeah.
And that's when the student from Pakistan, or the person who attacks the synagogue, or the crazy ones who burn the churches down in Canada, or the loon bags who attack the Hindu temples in Canada, or the loon bags who, you know, attack gurdwaras in Canada, Sikh temples in Canada. This is when those things happen. That see, the crazy ones are very tiny, minuscule percentage. Most of the people are just trying to game the system because they want to get their immigration done. So, you know, Darshan said it the best way. He said there is a rise of suddenly gay people in Canada. They're just suddenly gay.
Right.
They just realize, oh, I can be gay and I can claim that I'm being persecuted in my home country because I'm gay, while I might be straight as fuck. Right.
Fair.
So, and these are all tied to the national security question. At least that's my view. I don't know where you stand on this.
No, I mean, I think that is a lot of it is tied to national security. There's actually a comment there I saw in your chat where someone says that the U.S. often doesn't accept asylum claims from Indians. Is that true? Do you know that?
No, the United Kingdom doesn't.
Oh, the United Kingdom doesn't.
Yeah, they just said, like, come on, like India can't have refugee claims.
Gee, that's actually
United Kingdom signed a free trade agreement with India.
Gee,
you're not getting refugee status, okay?
That's so wild. That's so wild. That's like, that tells you everything you know right there, right? It's just especially with a guy like Mark Carney, who's knows a lot of people over in the UK, knows a lot of people over in Europe. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. That's why it goes back to my initial point. This is completely and utterly a scheme to drive down wages in Canada. This is all this is. It's to destroy our way of life. It's to destroy our quality of life and just cram people into boxes. Everyone has to live in one-bedroom modular units, and you're going to have to you have to walk to work, walk back home, and that's your life. That's where this all goes. And that's what they're advocating for. And that's what our current immigration process and our behavior from our current federal government dictates.
You know, the funny thing is, somebody can be the former governor of the Bank of England.
Yeah.
And then become a prime minister of Canada. But that, my dear friend, is not foreign interference.
He's Canadian, though, you know?
He has 3 passports. He had 3 passports.
Yeah. Allegedly.
A British passport, an Irish passport, and a Canadian passport.
And we don't know if he actually gave them up or not. We just have to take his word. So
yeah. I mean, come on. If he's not the prime minister and he wants those back, he'll get that like this.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Yeah.
He'll get that like this. But imagine when they attacked Chandra Arya. Interestingly, Carney fought from the very place where Chandra Arya was an MP. Yep. They would talk Chandra Arya about his dual loyalties. Here you have a freaking guy who has 3 passports, but Chandra Arya has 1 passport because India doesn't allow you. Most people don't know these things. India doesn't allow you to hold another passport.
Right.
You either hold the Indian passport or you don't. So I don't have a Canadian passport. I have an Indian passport. My wife cannot have an Indian passport. She has a Canadian passport. We just live our life like that.
Yeah, that you bring up such a good point. The audacity of Mark Carney to say that about Chandra Arya is ridiculous. Like that, I didn't even clock that during the election, but that was so true. That's such a good point. Oh man, people are ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I love I'll end off at that point. I love how you started this. Was a country who doesn't take their foreign issues or their foreign interference seriously, a country who believes they're a post-national state, even though they all of a sudden, when Trump comes on the scene, all of a sudden they find their nationalism. Those countries don't actually have true national security, and they don't actually believe in it, whether they say they do or not. I think that was a good point. I think that's a great thought. I want to end off on that.
Yeah, and I think I agree on that. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I also have something to announce to everyone
Oh,
over here. Josh is coming to Toronto.
oh, whoops! That was not supposed to play. My
No,
bad.
that was wonderful. That was perfect. The gap was perfect.
Uh, that was terrible.
That was perfect. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Josh is also coming for our conference, United Against Extremism.
That was the one we needed. There it
Oh,
is.
perfect.
Yeah.
So you see this QR code on the screen right now. All the details are also there in the description of the podcast. I am really looking forward to meeting Josh. Many other are coming. Clyde's coming. Jasmine is coming. Many others are going to be there. Wyatt Claypool is going to be there. And a lot of times people ask me, and let me give this as an official answer. A lot of times I find this very interesting. And everybody in Canada loves to ask this question. Who are the big names of this conference? Ladies and gentlemen, we are the big names of this conference. That's it. This is my answer to everyone. We are the big names of this conference. Cumulatively, with just 5 of us, right? Wyatt Claypool, Josh, Clyde, Jasmine, and I. And if we just combine the numbers of our YouTube, I'm not even talking about our Spotify, our Twitter accounts. You have millions of views there. Millions. So please don't tell me who the big name is, ladies and gentlemen. We are there. So if you've not registered, go register right now. Obviously, my dear friend Daniel Boardman is also there, who has an equally big platform. Love Daniel. And I'm so excited that he's also part of the conference. Many other people are going to be there. It's going to be 5 panels. You can come in the morning. Food is available for everyone to eat. You'll have lunch over there. You'll have breakfast over there. And we'll have a lot of fun. You can listen to Josh, Clyde, Jasmine, Daniel, myself, Salman, and many others. And what you'll find is this will be a rare occasion where Canadians will actually talk about national security, and it will not be in a closed chamber in some weird university where only 5 people will be allowed to come. And once again, it's all the details are on the screen and in the description. If you want to join, you want to meet Josh, you want to meet Clyde, you want to meet Jasmine, you want to meet Daniel, anyone, come over. The only condition is you have to show your ID at the registration booth. The tickets are for free. I want to thank the Canada India Foundation and Tafseek for doing this for everyone, for coming together. And Josh, once again, thank you very much. And brother, I look forward to meeting you in Toronto.
Likewise, man. Thanks for putting so much work into getting this thing going. I'm looking forward to seeing you, meeting you, as well as the other people that are on who you've brought in, and having some really deep and honest conversations about what's happening. I think will be really important, and bringing on people from all different ways of life, I think will be really cool and a great moment.
All right. And guys, before we wrap up, Josh's X handle, the Elevate Podcast, is mentioned in the description of the podcast. So is the YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel on YouTube, go subscribe right now. Go give the Elevate Podcast a follow on X. If you've not done it with me, shame on you. Do it with me too. and also, as you guys know, this is just my rule as a podcaster. I don't do ad reads. So if you really want to support the Cārvāka podcast, please join the membership program or send your one-time donations. Every single detail is in the description of the podcast. I will see you guys next time. Until then, please take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.